Now, the French Foreign Ministry has expressed its firm condemnation of the action taken in the Venezuelan capital in recent days, which has left the French embassy without electricity or running water. Well, Paris says this bizarre treatment by a host country flies in the face of the Vienna Convention. And the Venezuelan ambassador to France has been summoned earlier on this week to explain himself. Well, let's get more now from our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons. Rob, what on earth is going on there in Caracas?
Well, I think, Tom, you have to see this, first of all, against the background of chaos and dysfunction throughout Venezuela in general. So when on May the 3rd, the electricity supply to the ambassador's residence was cut off, they could at first have been forgiven for thinking that this was just part of the daily reality of Caracas, when the electricity supply can be cut off for hours on end. But when subsequently the gas supplies and the water supplies to the ambassador's residence were cut off as well, he was left in no doubt that this is a deliberate policy on the part of the Venezuelan authorities to make him suffer. He did complain about it, but there was no response from the Venezuelan authorities. He does have a generator of his own, so he can supply himself with enough electricity, but there is a problem with water. Normally speaking, that could have been solved by cistern lorries supplying water to the building. But because the Sebin intelligence police are blocking off the road at both ends, it's impossible for anybody to get through with water supplies to the residency. So that has left him in a pretty tricky position. And it's why the French foreign minister decided to get involved and summon the Venezuelan ambassador to France, first on Monday and then on Wednesday, to make the complaint that you referred to in your introduction and demand that these supplies be restored. And indeed, he did remind him of the Vienna Convention, which demands that host countries provide diplomats with all the means that they need to function properly in their countries. It should also be said that other residences in the same street, including the United States ambassador's residency and the residencies of South Africa and Austria have also been affected, and some Venezuelan families in the street too. And several of them have been forced to leave to go and live at alternative addresses where electricity supplies, although irregular, do happen.
OK, so some very strange treatment that the French diplomatic mission is receiving there in Caracas, which begs the question, why are the Venezuelan authorities doing this, Rob?
Yeah, again, we have to look at the background to all this to understand what's really going on, including, of course, the recent alleged coup attempt in Venezuela at the beginning of this month. 40 people were arrested, including 2 Americans, accused of attempting a coup d'etat and trying to take Nicolas Maduro, the president of the country, out of Venezuela. But the broader context is, that Nicolas Maduro, who's been in power since 2013, the successor to Hugo Chavez, was re-elected in 2018 in elections which most people, most countries, consider to have been fraudulent. Since 2019, France, along with most EU countries and the United States, have recognized the authority of Juan Guaido, the opposition leader who proclaimed himself as president. That irritated Nicolas Maduro massively. This year, things became even worse when President Macron received Juan Guaido at the Élysée Palace in Paris. He subsequently went on to Davos, Brussels, Canada, the United States, on a grand tour. But when he came back to Caracas, the Venezuelan capital, he was met at the airport by the ambassadors of the EU countries there, including, of course, France, who wanted to ensure his safety on arrival. I think these are the factors really that are behind this apparent negative attitude on the part of the Venezuelan authorities, the most aggressive attitude towards the French ambassador.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons, thank you very much indeed for bringing us up to speed. In other news,